Have you ever wondered about what happens to all that information that has been collected about you? All your credit card transactions, all your cell phone calls that you made, and the people connected to your social media community. My name is Jim Connor. Welcome to Game Changer Silicon Valley. Tonight's show is about how data is collected and how decisions are made using the data from millions of events and transactions, all under the heading of big data applications. My guests are Jonathan Wu, CEO of Dioda, and Beena Amanath, the Executive Director at GE Digital. Jonathan, Beena, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'd like to start with you, Jonathan, since big data is all about these vertical markets and how it's being used. Maybe give us an overview of how big data is being tapped and utilized in the telco industry.
Okay, Jim, excited to be here. So in telco, I can give you a specific example of one of our customers, Sprint in this case, which is generating massive amounts of data. And that data is connecting individuals connecting to cell towers, as an example. So you make a phone call, you connect to a cell tower. A record is created, which you think about the number of subscribers. I think they've got 58 million subscribers, all the cell towers, all the connections taking place, massive amounts of data being collected in terms of these connections. So that information is being pulled in to a repository, a big data repository platform called Hadoop, and with that, doing some processing and then analytics on top of it. So they can take a look at maybe fraud detection, maybe taking a look at cell phone coverage, how well a tower is performing, their overall network coverage and capabilities. The beauty about this definition of big data and the volume that's there, with a wealth of data, and that's just call data records. You take a look at subscriber data, you take a look at customer data, you start blending these different data sets together that gives you a better perspective.
Well, Beena, you come from GE Digital, right? And that's industrial division of GE. Can you tell us a little bit about your work there?
Absolutely. So firstly, thank you for having me over at the show. I'm really excited to be here. So I lead the data science team for GE Digital. My focus is on building data science products. And something that I was thinking about as Jonathan was talking about big data, we look at it from a very industrial perspective. So when we are looking at big data, we're looking at the data that's coming from our machines, from our equipment. So to give you an example of what big data means in an industrial company, in the past, a jet engine would capture about 50 sensor values at the rate of 3 snapshots of data. Once during climb, once during takeoff, and once during cruise. Now, with the newer engines, we can capture up to 3,000 parameters, 3,000 sensors at the rate of 1/16th of a second. So you can imagine if it's a 12-hour flight, the volume is just huge.
Does this data stay with the plane, or does it get transmitted back to some home station?
Yeah, no, of course it gets transmitted back where it is analyzed, transformed, and then the impact is driven back to the engine to make it perform better.
Oh, really? So you mean that a base station could send data back to the engine, say, tune it a little bit, do this, do that, if it's not running well?
Yeah, it could send the insights that you drive from the data back to the engine to make it perform better.
That's pretty amazing. That's amazing. And how long has that technology been around? Is that actually available today?
It's relatively new. So as you said, GE Digital is a new vertical within GE, very focused on making our industrial company into a digital company. How do you take all the data that has been coming from machines and actually use it to drive insights to make our industrial equipment and services better?
And this is the newest division of GE, I think.
Absolutely, yes. It just established late last year.
That's part of that transformation from old economy to the new economy. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. So Jonathan, back to you. You've got this company now, Dioda, and you're serving a number of markets, correct?
We are, yeah.
And one of them is the fintech, the financial services market, I should say.
Yeah, financial services, telco.
And is that financial services? That's banks, brokers, everything to do with financial transactions, credit cards, everything?
Yes.
What are some of the applications that you work with in the financial services?
So in financial services, we've got a customer that is taking a look at, really a comprehensive viewpoint of their customers. And what I mean by that is, as an individual, I may have a bank account, I may have a home mortgage, I may have an auto loan, I may have a credit card, I may have a retirement savings. All right, a lot of that information is in separate systems. All right, how do you have a comprehensive viewpoint of your customer? Well, step one is you've got to obtain that data from all of those disparate systems and put it into a repository for analysis. And so what DIOTA does is we help facilitate data movement from any sort of source and platform into a repository, providing the processing and then provisioning to any sort of analytic application, data visualization, or what have you.
I'm going to ask both of you about this, and that is, because I want to get both of your opinions.
Yeah.
How do you get a company who goes, I think we have some valuable things, but it's all across the board. Some is in a SQL database, some is a bunch of video, some is old manual record. How does someone in a company start thinking this through when they have regular jobs to do it? Do they have a big data officer position? Is this really happening?
Yeah, so there is this whole new role evolving called Chief Digital Officer. It's really about looking at the complete digital DNA for a company, and especially in the industrial world, right, which has been very focused on equipment. How do you build out that digital DNA where not only about data being distributed across multiple silos, but what value can you drive from this data? What new revenue generating opportunities can be had from just looking at this data?
How about the government sector? It's got to be pretty deep in data, I would imagine.
Oh, without a doubt.
That's got to be the biggest database in the world, right?
Yes. With one of my prior companies, taking a look at, say, the Department of Health and being able to help facilitate and really understand, what sort of diseases, health-related issues are in the communities, and then pulling that data together, doing some analysis, and then being able to enact programs, per se. So maybe skin cancer, maybe one, maybe smoking, it would be another campaign. So it's using data to help understand whether or not these programs, these initiatives are effective and what they need to do to fine-tune them.
So one of the things that you mentioned to me, and we had a conversation a little earlier, is that a lot of companies just don't have an idea. They got data, but they don't have any idea how to make value of it.
Yeah.
Is that part of what your role is, to go and do a survey?
Not necessarily. Okay. With my prior company, without a doubt, we would go in and help set the vision and the roadmap of, how do you go from your current analysis to really fact-based decision making that relies upon data. All right. DIOTA, we help facilitate the movement and processing. So it's a slightly different blend. What we're finding is most organizations at this point in time have the intelligence, the wherewithal to really understand and appreciate, if I'm going to make a decision, I'm going to base it on facts, and that facts has to come from the data sets, and those data sets have to be complete. They've got to be relevant. They've got to be timely in order to make the best decision possible. And then, after you make the decision, was it a good one? And that's where you then take a look at the other sets of data and see, how has that panned out?
You didn't stumble into this. You chose to be in this area, I think. Is that?
I chose to be in this field by initial education and training. I'm a certified public accountant, so I've worked with data. And out of that frustration of working with data and understanding that some of this is not quite right, it could lead you to misunderstand the results, led me more into, all right, how do I access this data? How do I manage it? How do I put it into some sort of consumable manner? And so, I've been in this field very active for the last 25 years.
Really? Did you have an aha moment where you suddenly got terribly excited about the whole idea, where you were going along as a CPA and you're doing this and you go, wait a minute, there's a totally incredibly big opportunity here if I can get my hands into more relevant data?
There's a number of aha moments that have happened all throughout that career, where you're taking a look and providing information to individuals, your customers, that have never had this information before. And it's the discoveries of, I've had a preconceived notion about how a certain performance is taking place. In reality, that's not the case.
How did you get into this field, Bina?
So by training, I've studied computer science. So by training, I'm a computer scientist, but I've always been in the data field. And I've been in this field for 25 years too, and started out where it used to be more OLTP or transactional-based systems, right from DB2 and FoxPro to Oracle and SQL Server. You have seen that whole evolution coming through. 15 years ago, it was all about data warehousing and BI, being able to look at data in the past and see what happened. Now it's at that stage where we're looking at big data, which is able to tell us what is going to happen based on what what happened, right? So I've seen that whole evolution of data, seen how we've moved from OLTP to BI to data science. So it's the whole data journey.
That's great. So that's a great comment, because that's my next question. What is going to happen in this area? I'll go back to you, Jonathan. Do you think there's going to be some radical breakthroughs in terms of health or fintech, or is it going to be incremental? Do you see anything happening that people become aware of how important big data is?
Yeah, I think it's industry by industry. Each industry, depending on where they're at, like financial services, for example, and how they're pushing the envelope with respect to big data. Being able to have that comprehensive viewpoint of their customers. You take a look at Telco and their big data challenges of their network, and being able to take a look at the call data records and making sure that the coverage is appropriate and that they've got satisfied customers. So each industry has their own unique challenges and generations of big data, and that's where obtaining that set of data, being able to perform some of the basic analysis is typically step one when it comes to big data. Then it moves into more of a richer type evolution when it comes to analyzing and having true knowledge of the subject matter. What I mean by that is elements of predictive analysis, forecasting, artificial intelligence, so that you can predict.
And I think in your role at GE Digital, you've got a tremendous opportunity to bring quite a bit of insight to how the machinery or the equipment that you deliver, nuclear plants, for example.
Yeah, and I truly believe that big data is going to have huge impact in the industrial IoT world, right? The Internet of Things, but more from an industrial perspective with big machines. Imagine of a world in the future where when you go in for an MRI scan and it finds a certain pattern in your scan, imagine all the MRI machines across the world speaking to each other, finding a similar scan, and then saying what had worked in the specific case and making it available in an anonymized manner to make this patient's life better, to make send out a treatment.
That's a good insight. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but that makes me understand the concept of big data. It's a term that's been kicked around or thrown around kind of loosely in the past, but now that makes a lot of sense that these machines themselves will start
talking to each other,
and communicating in some form of artificial intelligence, perhaps.
Exactly. I like to think of it like the Facebook or the connected network of machines and we're doing it with GE is doing it with our industrial internet platform called Predix, and that's the idea, to be able to connect machines together so that they talk to each other and make our lives better.
So now I've had this little insight that big data may be the foundation of artificial intelligence.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I think what we'll do is I'll invite you both back for a show about artificial intelligence and how big data feeds artificial intelligence.
Thank you.
I want to thank you both for being here, Jonathan Wu and Bina Amaneth. And I'll let each of you provide your contact information if anybody in the audience who's watching the show would like to follow up with you.
My contact information is jwu@Diotta, and that's spelled DIYOTTA.com.
And my contact information is Beena@ge.com. That's BEENA@ge.com.
Again, been delightful. I've really enjoyed it. I've learned quite a bit, and I would like to follow up with you about the step from big data to artificial intelligence. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Jim.
This is Jim Connor. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Game Changers Silicon Valley. Each week we'll address an area of innovation that may emerge as a game changer of tomorrow. You can follow us on our website, gamechangers.tv, Facebook, or Twitter. We look forward to your continued interest and participation in upcoming shows.